Our main speaker for the evening is Karen.
Oh, am I being recorded? I thought, how courteous of them to bring up a little phone with a timer for me. You guys are going to let me know, right? Time-wise, right on, right on. Hi, my name's Karen. I'm an alcoholic. Hi, everybody. Oh, my God. It's so cool to be here and to see some familiar faces, some really familiar faces, and some of the guys who started this meeting. I remember when it started. And I got to tell you, man, I almost was crying when the people were coming up and getting their chips. It's like, new sobriety, full of enthusiasm. This meeting rocks. The energy here and, the commitment to service and working with others and getting in the book and doing the steps, I absolutely love it. So just wanted to get that off my chest and say congratulations to the chip takers. Congratulations, Jerry. But especially the newest guy coming back. Congratulations. I'm glad you made it back. It's a little difficult for me to know where to start because my ego really is not happy about this. I've been coming around. I walked into the dry dock finally after about 8 years of stumbling in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous, mostly out. Walked into the dry dock on September 26, 1995. And this one over here was about 3 months sober. And that one over there was not years and years already. That one came shortly after me. And my sobriety date is September 20th, 2022. So I picked up a drink after 25 years. And I made it back. Thank God I made it back. Because I saw a lot of people not make it back, I remember being in early sobriety and watching people that had 25 years and listening to them talk and just being mesmerized by their knowledge, and their wisdom, and then finding out, they moved away or something, and finding out that they drank. I was devastated. How did they drink? I mean, that person drank seriously, and now I know. I know how for me it happened, and I'll be happy to share that with you, so that perhaps it doesn't happen to you. Anyway, start from the beginning. I'm the baby of 4. My sister's here with me tonight. Hi, Cubby. And I always say, I probably should change this, get original, but I always say I grew up on the wrong side of the creek. You know how there were tracks and people grew up on the wrong side of the tracks? Well, I grew up on the wrong side of the creek. And we literally had, this side of the creek was a neighborhood that, for all intents and purposes, we had an alcoholic in almost every single household, usually the father, usually missing, and, just the kids running rampant in the streets and, just wildness. It was a lot of fun, don't get me wrong, but wildness. And my mother, after my father left, and, he didn't just abandon us, my mother asked him to leave, working for the state during the day, going to nursing school at night, and, really working hard and admirable. But that meant there was nobody there to supervise us, right? So we were little animals. And on the other side of the creek, and this is how I imagined it anyway, I don't know how it really was, but on the other side of the creek, there was the nice house and these are girls that I went to elementary school with. They had canopy beds and whatever dolls they wanted, and their mom was in the PTA and their dad was an attorney, and everything was peachy keen over at their house, right? That's how I imagined it. That's how I imagined growing up. And I did not want to live on that side of the creek. I wanted to live over there where I belonged, damn it. Yeah, right from the start, I was that kind of alcoholic, and I always, my brother and sister used to tease me because I was the baby, and I don't know if I was different, but my mom did coddle me a little bit, but they used to tell me that I was found in the dumpster, and that I was the mailman's kid or whatever they used to tell me, and I was when I was old enough to realize, and I was like, You're damn straight. You're like Elizabeth Taylor, I thought dropped me off sometime at one of her drunken stupors, but I definitely do not belong here with you people. That's for sure. And so anyway, I always felt a little uncomfortable in my own skin. I was a scrawny little kid. I was picked on a lot, and but I got to say too, we had a really fun childhood, a free childhood. We were outside all the time. We had wheat fields out back of my house and cornfields and peach orchards, and we had a good time. I was one of the younger kids in the neighborhood, so I used to run around after all the old kids, wanting to hang out with them, wanting to be like them. And yeah, they drank before I did, and I got interested in it. We had a house down in my neighborhood where a gentleman, God bless him, this is something I should work on amends for every single day of my life. And his name was Butchie, and he had a metal plate in his head. And he was an alcoholic from the war, I should say. And he was an alcoholic. And as long as we brought him beer, we could party at his house. And man, did we abuse that. We were there. Butchie was happy because he was getting beer all the time. But it wasn't very good for Butchie's health. And it was, anyway, so I followed the older kids there, and I started drinking on a regular basis, like every weekend at least, when I was 13 years old. And all of a sudden, I wasn't so shy, and I wasn't so uncomfortable in my own skin. And I don't know that I felt prettier or smarter or this or that, but I certainly didn't. I was going to cuss, sorry. I certainly didn't care anymore. I cared a lot less about what you thought about me. There are some other substances in my story, but alcohol is my drug of choice. Alcohol was my love, my best friend, my everything. By the time I got here, I was drinking vodka for breakfast, and I had to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and search desperately for a glass of vodka just to get the shakes and just to keep me from vomiting. That's how bad my alcoholism got. So, but in the beginning it was fun, right? I was hanging out at Butchie's house with everybody else, and we were having a good time, and so I thought, and partying every weekend, and I knew that I wanted to get out from that side of the creek, wanted to get out of that neighborhood. So I went to college, and I was maybe the only kid, certainly one of the only kids in my neighborhood that went to college. Went away to college 7 whole miles away, and but lived on campus because I got a lot of academic scholarships and student loans, and it was just as cheap for me to live on campus, and that is when my drinking really took off. I don't know how I graduated with a bachelor's degree, but I can tell you, in all honesty, that I can count on 2 hands the number of days I did not drink while I was in college. I drank every single day. Not to oblivion every single day, but certainly different than my fellows. And I didn't get in too much trouble yet, right? I was still in college. I was living in the dorms. I was, occasionally I was driving home drunk and I hit a curb, and I would call my stepfather and he would come get me out of the jam. And one time I was at a bar and I had this old 1965 Pontiac Bonneville convertible. Sweet car. And the weird thing was when the key was in the ignition and it was running, you could actually pull the key out of the ignition and it would still be running. So I know I'm aging myself here a little bit, but so I'm getting into a fight with some boyfriend at a bar, and he takes the keys out of my car trying to stop me from leaving, and he takes the keys out of my car and throws them in the woods. So, just to give you an example of my alcoholism, so I decide, my car's still running, I'm gonna leave. So I leave, and I'm driving home, and I'm driving through this apartment complex, and really all I have to do is make a left, get on the highway. I live pretty close, I could be home scot-free, and I decided that I had to tell someone my story, I had to tell someone this horrible tragedy that had happened to me. So I made a right instead. After I was already making the left, I made a right to go tell my girlfriend. And there was a police officer behind me. And I was like, thank God, officer, that my drunken boyfriend is coming to get me. And blah, 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 blah. And he followed me home. And I got out of that, like he followed me home. And again, woke up my stepfather and he helped me fix the car or whatever. But I say that to say that I ended up with 3 DUIs. And there were so many times that I got away with it that, so many times. So if I ended up with 3 DUIs, how many times statistically must I have driven drunk? So many times I could have killed somebody. I think it was my 2nd or 3rd DUI. I was living here in Florida. I made a geographic from New Jersey to Florida, mostly because I had graduated college and I was supposed to do something with my life. And I was terrified. I mean, all I learned how to do was drink in school. And so I was so full of fear. I didn't know that that's what it was, that I was that full of fear. I recognized it immediately in the big book when they said that, driven by 100 forms of fear. I was living my life like that. And I was full of fear about the future, also full of embarrassment, a little bit of shame, a little bit of embarrassment, like I was supposed to do something with my life. So I didn't want to see my mother's face anymore and see her looking at me like, okay, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do with your life? So I ran away to Florida. And I came here, I did my first geographic, and whatever, I don't even know where I'm going with this story, but I'm living here and I go back to New Jersey for a vacation, and I get another DUI. It was my 2nd or 3rd DUI. I think it was my 2nd. And this time I had my sister in the car and my brother in the car and my best friend in the car, and I almost killed them all. And like the young gentleman that spoke before me, John, is it John? Thank you for sharing your story, by the way. It wasn't my bottom. Like my mother brought me to see that car destroyed. I had hit a parked car that hit the car in front of it and the car in front of it, and I had destroyed a whole family's transportation. And the police came, and of course, blah, 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 blah. My sister was in the back seat, and she said, what happened to you? And I said, oh, I was looking for a cassette. I was down here looking for a cassette. She said, no. 1 second I was talking to you, and the next second you were out. And that's what it was. I completely blacked out, and I hit these cars and smashed everybody's in. And just more and more blood. It was Easter Sunday. Blood running down my little Easter outfit, my white skirt and my little flowered shirt, blood gushing everywhere. Had to be, rushed to the hospital, blah, 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 blah. Could have killed everybody in my car. And my mother bringing me to see that car, thinking that was going to be the time. That was going to be the thing that got me, and it wasn't. It wasn't. I had a lot of bottoms in my drinking, a lot of bottoms. And somehow would rouse myself from it. DTs, really bad stuff where you think you never want to do that again. And I would drink again. And when I finally came around to AA, I was 24 when I went to my first AA meeting. I walked into the meeting, it was in Safety Harbor, and I walked into the meeting and I knew immediately I knew I was where I belonged. Immediately I knew that you guys had the answer. There was a sense of peace that came over me. And I went out and drank for another 8 years. So I would come around and you would give me a big book and you would give me phone numbers and I would never call you. And I would never open that big book. And I might stay dry for a couple weeks and then I'd drink again. And then it would start all over again. Maybe a year later, the judge would send me back. Or a boyfriend was going to break up with me. Or I just lost this job. Or my mother again, Always my mother again, And I would come back around to AA because I knew you guys had the answer here. But I just wasn't ready to stop drinking, I thought when I walked into the dry dock on September 26, 1995, that would definitely be my last drink ever. My last drink was actually on September 25th, and I walked in on the 26th. And I was shaking and crying, and people, a woman took me home and detoxed me, like old school, took me home from the meeting. Her name was Katie, and she fed me teaspoons of honey, and she put me on her couch, and then she put me in her swimming pool, and then she put me in her hot tub, and, back and forth, and put a blanket over me and detoxed me on her couch. And I was like, why are you doing this? Why would you do this for me? And she said, because somebody did it for me, and one day you're going to do it for somebody else. And I have to tell you that I have been blessed to be able to do that for someone else. One of the blessings of alcoholism, sticking around, of recovery, sticking around long enough to be able to help other people, to be able to pass on what has been so freely given to me. And anyway, so for a long time, the obsession was lifted, and I was really grateful. And I worked with a sponsor, and I had a lot of fellowship in my early days. So I think I was saved by that. Always giving rides to people, always having going to Fort DeSoto, doing the camping trip. We were always doing something. We were going out to eat. We were going out to dances. And I think that fellowship really saved me in the beginning. I see that a lot here. I see you guys go out. I see you do things. And I think that's really cool. And it's important in early sobriety. It was to me. But then, I got like on step 7 and I got stalled. And my sponsor moved away, and, I didn't get another sponsor. And so for many years I was sponsoring myself. And I paid for that. I paid for that with mental anguish, spiritual anguish. I really paid for that. And then the wheels fell off the bus, so I got another sponsor. Some of you know Virginia, who just passed away. She was my sponsor. I went to her because she was so mean to my friend Nancy. She was wicked mean, really mean to her. And like Nancy would cry all the time. And I'm like, that's what I need. I need a, really mean sponsor who's going to, really make me work these steps. And she took me through those steps, and she was like gentle as a lamb. She was so sweet with me. I'm like, when are you going to get mean? When are you going to? But I would go to her house every week, and we would walk through that book line by line by line. And that's the way I sponsor today. That's what I do with my sponsees. I walk through the book line by line by line. And it's not for everybody, but that's what works for me. And I never feel more alive than when I'm doing that. Never, ever do I feel better than when I'm walking another person through that big book. I just love it. Absolutely love it. So yeah, I know I've been going around in circles and circles and circles and circles. But so yeah, I stayed sober. I had a lot of good times. I had a little challenging times. I had a lot of sponsors. I did a lot of service work. My friends and I were like on the committee for the convention, and I was a GSR, and I was a intergroup rep, and I was a secretary. I was a really bad secretary, and I was a treasurer. I did a little bit of everything. I'll give a shout out to Friday Night Amazing Grace Women's Group. That was my home group for the first 10 years of my sobriety, and that group really, and then I went on the road. I was a 18-wheeler tractor trailer driver, and yeah, hard to believe, right? So I look at those things going down the road right now, and I'm like, oh my God, I used to drive one of those things. And so we got on the road. I got married, and we did that, and we were blessed. Really, I have to say, I couldn't stand my husband. Couldn't stand him. But let me tell you, this guy was every city we went to, he already had the meeting that we were going to. Thank God for him, because, I can get complacent. I'd be like, man, I'm tired. You know what I mean? And like, I got a book and I'm fine and I'm not. Every single place we went, he had the meeting already picked out. And we met people all over the country, and we did some AA stuff. We were with the Sober Musicians group out in California when the Red Hot Chili Peppers were there, and we were selling merch, and just having a great time. We did a lot of really, really cool things. But I couldn't, I could not take being away from my peeps and being away from my home group, and it's a lot. 8 months into that, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to kill you, kill me, or drink. and I'm not willing to drink. I'm not willing to drink. So so we quit that job and we came back. And I've had several home groups, lots of home groups, lots of sponsors. I wish I was that girl that had one sponsor from the first day I got sober. And that's just not my story, And I take it today to learn that, I learned a little bit of something from every person. With Virginia, Westminster was my home group, and the wonderful Saturday big book meeting of blah, 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 blah. I don't know what the name of that meeting was, but it was a long name. But we did the doctor's opinion in the first 3 steps, and the doctor's opinion in the first 3 steps. And we helped a lot of newcomers, helped me, definitely, stay in green. So what happened? So in 2019, I got back together with an old boyfriend of mine from the 80s. Yeah, and it seemed like a really good idea, and his wife had passed, and he was the guy that I was dating when I moved to Florida, actually, and so he found me somehow, Facebook, I'm sure, and asked a friend for my phone number and called me up, and we got together. And so I have to tell you, at this time, 23 years sober, and I know this guy drinks. I don't know how much he drinks, but I know he drinks. And he's talking about AA a little bit, and I'm thinking, okay, and he's really supportive of my sobriety. I told him I'm sober, I don't drink, da 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 da, and he's really, really supportive of my sobriety. And we get together, and we get engaged, and now we buy a house in Florida, and we have a home in Robbinsville, New Jersey, and we have a home in Florida, and COVID hits, and we're going back and forth a little bit, and there at the house in Robbinsville, oh, here's another red flag. The neighborhood that I moved into, they nicknamed it the Enablerhood. The Enablerhood. Red flags. I don't want to see it. When I don't want to see anything, when I am on self-will run riot, I'll tell you what, I just want to run the show. I want to do everything. I want to make all the decisions, and it's not good. It's not good news. So I go there anyway. We're in love. We're going to get married. Blah blah blah. And I'm living there, and we have house concerts. And so we have people over once a month, and we have a musician there, and there's a concert, and people bring booze, and the neighbors set up a bar, la 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 la. I'm sober. I'm not thinking about drinking. I'm not thinking about drinking at all. I'm also not going to meetings. I also don't have a sponsor. Also not helping any other girls. Not doing any morning readings, really. I like to sleep in, and then I start work. And I get right up. I'm a little bit of a workaholic, so I get right up and get right on the computer. Not really talking to God too much. But I'm feeling good. I'm good. I was really good. No, I suffer from depression, and I don't like the word suffer. Bless you. I'm challenged with depression, and at the time, I was good. I was like living a happy life, seeing people come and go. They knew I was sober. They had a little thing for my 25th anniversary, a little cupcake with 2 and a 5 in there, and these are people that drink, not alcoholically, people that drink, and so everything's going smooth. And one day, I decide. We have a flat grill, and we're going to make, I don't know if you guys, any Northerners here, if you know Philly cheesesteaks. Everybody knows what a cheesesteak is now, right? The Philly cheesesteaks. So we have a flat grill, and we're going to make Philly cheesesteaks for everybody at the concert. But the meat was in a freezer of a neighbor's 2 doors down. And everybody rode their golf cart around, by the way. It's all 5 acres of land, all kinds of, so we're riding our golf carts around. I'm like, I'll go get it. I'll go get the meat over at Kathy's house. So I ride over there. Now I know, if I really search and really think about it, I know that I knew that I was going to drink. I know that I volunteered to go to Kathy's house because I know she has a bottle of Stoli over there. And I've seen that bottle of Stoli a million times and never wanted to drink it. you know? And I get on that golf cart and I go over there, and by the time her son goes down into the basement to get those cheesesteaks from the freezer and comes back up, I have poured myself a glass of Stoli, drank it down, washed the cup, and put it away. This kid could care less if I drank, by the way. You know, like, I could care less. But I'm a sneaky alcoholic, right? And who am I hiding it from? You know, who am I sneaking it from? These people knew that I was sober. In fact, they loved Jimmy, my fiance, but they really liked Jimmy. They really liked Karen's boyfriend, Jimmy. Meaning that when I was around, he drank less. And because I was sober, I was a good influence on him. And one of them asked me one day, like, how about if it turns around and he's a bad influence on you and you drink? And I'm like, I will leave him before that day ever comes. I will never drink again. I will leave him before that day comes. And just like that, you talk about it in the book, big book, like someone had pushed a drink my way and I had taken it. You know, where had my high resolve been? You know, those strange mental blank spots, that peculiar twist. All of that stuff they talk about in the big book was exactly that, because there was no premeditation. Besides the fact that when I got on that golf cart, I know that I must have known when I got on that golf cart that I was going over to do that. But prior to that, 5 minutes prior to that, not a thought of drinking. Week before that, not a thought of drinking. A month before that, not a thought of drinking. I was good, right? But again, you know, if I have to, because I do have to rewind the clock and look at it. Not going to meetings, therefore not helping anybody else. You know, not working with girls, not getting my nose in the big book, not, you know, talking to a sponsor, not having a service commitment, none of those things. And so I feel like the time that I have today in AA is not as important as what I'm doing with that time today. You know, am I doing those things? You know, this morning I got up and I said a prayer and I read some spiritual literature. And then I texted my sponsee a list of the musts in the big book because she had heard there were no musts in the big book. So a friend of mine had a little bookmark about the musts, and I sent that to her. And I will call my sponsor tomorrow. And I'm here at a meeting, you know. I did not want to come speak for y'all tonight, by the way. It is an honor and a privilege to be here and to be asked. But I don't want to do this. I'm running around. I'm sweaty. I'm disheveled. I was running around getting ready for Fort DeSoto. We're going to go camping at Fort DeSoto and spend the weekend down there. So I know we're in Pasco County, but Pinellas County Intergroup has a big picnic on the last Sunday of every April. And this year it's the 29th? The 28th? Okay, thank you. And I'm camping till the 29th. I guess that's why I have that in my mind. And so some of us, many, many years ago, my friend Marguerite, who some of you might know as well, took me camping. My first year. I got sober in September, so that next April she took me camping. And we went like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then the next year we went Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then the next year we went Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And now I'm going tomorrow, and I'm going to stay there for 9 days and camp and step off the earth and just let it revolve a couple times without me. And I'm going to have people from AA, me and 300 of my closest friends from AA will take over that campground, and people just walk around, and there's pop-up meetings. And we used to say, if you have a coffee cup and a fork, just come on by. We'll feed you. Well, you don't even need a fork. We'll give you a fork. Bring your coffee cup, though. And we'll feed you, and we'll give you a cup of coffee, and we'll give you some fellowship. And it's an amazing, amazing time. Anyway, that's what I was doing today, was running around getting everything ready for the camping trip. And I feel like coming here. I wanted to go home and go to bed. I need a shower. You know, I didn't want to come here, but I'm really glad I'm here. And I'm glad to be able to tell my story. And I have to tell you also, it was my ego. That I don't want to go up there and tell those people that I drank after 25 years and that, hi, I didn't even see you sitting there. And, you know, in September, I'll have 2 years of sobriety. Wow. You know, like my friends are celebrating 28 years and 29 years, and now it's like I'm never going to get to 30 years of sobriety. You know, like I really had to deal with that. And I kind of skipped this part, but recently my niece came around for a little while, my sister's daughter, and she didn't make it quite a year, and she drank. I think she was like 11 months when she drank. Anyway, her daughter, I'm raising her now, and I moved to Pennsylvania to raise her because she lived in about at least 4 different apartments along this road, Little Road, or the other road, whatever road that is, Rowan Road, and at least 4 more in Clearwater, and been to I don't know how many schools, and she finally has some stability in Pennsylvania, and my niece just due to her alcoholism couldn't take care of her child, so because Jimmy and I, listen, I'm not that wonderful, virtuous person. Jimmy and I were breaking up. We had to sell the house in Clearwater. So I was like, do I stay in Clearwater or do I go, help raise my niece? And so I moved to Pennsylvania and I'm raising my niece there. And that's where I had to go, like to these people that I don't know. I don't know these people at all. And I had to kind of raise my hand and say I'm a newcomer and pick up a white chip. And, but don't they know? Don't they know that I got sober in 1995? Don't they know that I have time? Like that. It's such bullshit, and I really have had to smash that ego. 2 minutes, right on. Thank you so much. I've had to smash that ego. I have to say a couple things. Resting on your laurels. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And nothing short of continuous action upon this way of life, nothing short of continuous action upon this way of life will bring us the much desired results. I can't stop doing the stuff that I did the first day I came in. What they tell me to do: go to a meeting, call your sponsor, get on your knees, pray, effect some conscious contact with a God of your understanding. And I still have to do those things every single day if I want to stay sober. That's all I have. Thanks so much.
We have passed the basket in accordance with the 7th tradition. Also, a second basket went around for ASL donations. You can pick up meeting sheets at the podium after the meeting. Let's give tonight's speakers another round of applause. If you are willing to become a sponsor, please raise your hand. And now Mike will come read There Is a Solution.
Mike, alcoholic. There is a solution almost none of us liked: the self-searching, the leveling of our pride, the confession of shortcomings which the process requires for its successful consummation. But we saw that it worked, that it really worked in others, and we had come to believe in the hopelessness and futility of life as we had been living it. When therefore we were approached by those in whom the problem had been solved, there was nothing left for us but to pick up the simple kit of spiritual tools laid at our feet. We have found much of heaven, and we have been rocketed into the 4th dimension of existence, of which we had not even dreamed.
And now Jeff will come read the long form of Tradition 12 and close the meeting.
Hello, my name is Jeff. I'm an alcoholic. And finally, we of Alcoholics Anonymous believe that the principle of anonymity has an immense spiritual significance. It reminds us that we are to place principles before personalities, that we are actually to practice a genuine humility. This is to the end that our great blessings may never spoil us, that we shall forever live in thankful contemplation of Him who presides over us all. For those who care to join, we close with the Lord's Prayer.
No, that's crazy.